Hello, everyone. I had the task, according to Michael, of connecting everything in 8 minutes, so I did bring some notes. Let me begin, as always, by saying peace and power to all species. Look at all these earthlings here. What would it sound like if all these earthlings at the same time screamed, "Fuck Monsanto"? It could be louder than that. 1, 2, 3. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Let's give a round of applause to the organizers for doing an amazing job. And I want to personally thank them for giving me the opportunity to speak here in historic Union Square Park, where over 100 years ago, standing right here, was a woman by the name of Emma Goldman. Can I get a raised fist for Emma Goldman?
How about Paul Rosen for Julius and Ethel Rosenberg?
All right. Now, I'm sure there are many reasons why people came out here today. Perhaps they wanted to acknowledge that GMOs are not labeled. They're not tested by the FDA, that GMOs, once released into the environment, cannot be recalled. GMOs are not designed to feed the poor, and so on and so on. Whatever the reason was that brought you out to the park today, I want to connect it with one simple fact. The mess that we're in, this mess, Monsanto, GMOs, the corporate culture, the destruction of the ecosystem, is not the result of some preordained theology or some unstoppable force of nature. We are in this mess because of human decisions. If different decisions had been made in the past, different outcomes would have likely occurred. If new decisions are made right now, perhaps some new outcomes can occur. So we got to make some new decisions. And the idea is to put into practice the kind of world that we want to live in. And as it relates to GMOs, the first and easiest thing to do is avoid them. Don't buy them. Don't consume them. Also, go into the stores and label them yourself. If they won't label them, we'll label them. And we can connect on a local level with community-supported agriculture, community gardens, seed banks, seed bomb events, and so on. But perhaps the most fundamental thing we can do is to take back the right to grow our own food. And we can do this in window boxes, fire escapes, rooftops, backyards, and if you have one, lawns. Imagine if every lawn was instead a vegetable garden. The most irrigated crop in America is lawn. 40 million acres from sea to overfish sea. And it takes about 10 times as many chemicals to treat lawn than it does per acre than it does to treat industrial farmland. This is how the corporate culture and companies like Monsanto have twisted us into surrendering our ability to grow our own food and instead willingly poisoning our own landscape. Now, since I mentioned industrial farmland, let me ask a question. How many vegans do we have here today? Make some noise if you're a vegan. Get loud if you're a vegan. That's not bad for a bunch of protein-deficient, annoying, self-righteous militants. I'm impressed. Okay. Well, here's the reality. Roughly 95% depending on the grain, of grains grown in America are genetically modified. The vast majority of those grains aren't fed to humans. They're fed to doomed animals, which are then murdered for so-called food to be fed back to humans. And guess what? That food is also not labeled genetically modified. Hey, Stacy. What it comes down to is that food justice means a lot more than just screaming, "Fuck Monsanto." So here's another new idea. In the name of eco-defense, let's embrace holistic justice, collective liberation, and move towards a plant-based lifestyle. Because GMOs are not the only hidden ingredient in animal food. For those of you who are not vegans, let me tell you what else is not on that label. There's unspeakable animal cruelty. There is a human health holocaust. There is exploited human labor. There is more power and more control for the 1%. There is the hierarchy of privilege. And perhaps most relevant to today, there is irreversible environmental devastation.
Right.
So if your idea after the march, it's a good idea to go get a burger or order a pizza, just remember that industry, the global animal agribusiness, eats up and destroys 1/3 of the planet's land surface. It is directly responsible for topsoil depletion, deforestation, species extinction, and so on, overfishing and so on. And it is the #1 source of human-created greenhouse gases, which translates directly into climate change. So if you call yourself an environmentalist, if you call yourself an activist, here's a new decision for you. Start living it 24 hours a day. Embrace food justice 24 hours a day. What it comes down to is that nothing matters unless we have a functioning ecosystem. Whatever your personal issue is, go for it. We need as many activists as possible, but none of it matters unless the ecosystem is functioning, and that's where we can unite. We must make these big connections. We can't just focus on one corporation. We could look on the other corporations that are killing the ecosystem via the food industry. There are far too many to name, but they could be Cargill, Tyson, Smithfield, KFC, Nestle's, McDonald's, and so on. So we must bring down Monsanto, but we can't forget all the other corporations. And this is where our food choices and our commitment to food justice connects directly to Wall Street. And it has the support of both political parties, and it makes possible so-called free trade agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, aka TPP. And if that passes as it stands right now, it means that more third world countries will be forced to shift to factory farming in order to remain competitive. So that translates into game over for the environment. So the idea, as you see what I'm doing here, is to make connections between the big issues and connections with each other. Do not leave this march today without making some new connections, preferably some people that might not agree with you on everything. And then use these new connections to create more actions. One day isn't enough. We need to make a habit of this. So we need to embrace activism as a lifestyle. And I know that choosing sustained activism or direct action can be a frightening or a scary choice. But ask yourself this: is there anything more frightening and more scary than surrendering control of your food and your water? No! So do not opt for the illusion of safety over the quest for justice. There are good reasons to be afraid, comrades, but there are better reasons to be bold. So it's simple as this. In this struggle that we're in, it's real simple. Either you're working to preserve the future or you're not. So ask yourself, which side am I on? Because we need a planet with far fewer reasons to grieve and far more reasons to celebrate. And the good news is that there is a growing celebration meeting right here at the corner of empathy and anger. And what we're planning is nothing short of a global jailbreak. So join us. And remember these words: ask not what your ecosystem can do for you. Ask what you can do for your ecosystem. Peace and power to all species. Thank you.
Okay, that was wonderful.